Welcome back, everybody. I felt like opening some more Monarch, so here we are. This one came from Midian Gaming in Victoria, I believe. Bought a few cases from him a while back. Some of you will be familiar. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Andy, I think. Probably got that wrong. Midian Gaming. I want to also shout out Dice Jar Games in New Zealand. If you're in New Zealand, I'd highly recommend dealing with those guys. I think that's Gregory. Yeah, I've bought a few products off him, higher end collectible stuff, because he had a few and he was parting with them. Definitely check Dice Jar Gaming out. New Zealand, I think, is, no point if you're in Australia, I don't believe, unless you're looking at singles, just for the shipping cost. It's a bit prohibitive. But here we are. I might just rip this whole case, because why not? This particular set, talking about Monarch, of course, it's had a bumpy road. Seems like people are, but by the sounds of it, I think Alpha Investments posted a little bit about this. Shops have sold stock they've held on to. A lot of investors have also done the same. If you follow the space, Rudy from Alpha Investments picked up a lot of cases. I believe he was paying $200 for a while. I don't think he's doing that anymore. Look, I like this set. I think, it came out after Crucible. Unfortunately, people assumed it would perform the same as Crucible, which is, it's impossible to guess. Impossible to project that stuff. You'd have to assume. I wasn't around. I think I just jumped into the game when Monarch Unlimited came out. But still, 3-4 sets into a game, it's not going to perform like the earlier ones necessarily. So I think that sort of burnt a lot of people. There's a bit of apprehension with this set. I think that'll change if they announce out of print for Monarch Unlimited. I assume that's coming or will be next. But as sets go, I think this is one of the most playable, right? As a non-player, you hear people talking about, where's the foils are so dark on Monarch. Hear a lot of people, obviously, Prism, Chain, light and shadow stuff, still very playable, still winning. So we'll see. We'll see where the set goes. I enjoy opening it. I'm still hunting, in case you're wondering why I'm opening more. Would love to hit an Extended Art Twinning Blade. That's the one card I've never held, never seen. I also haven't had every single cold foil from this set. I believe I have every legendary from the set, though. Let's see what we can find. I don't know if you can tell, I'm sunburnt. Went for a bike ride for a couple of hours on a windy, cloudy day, but in Australia, that does not mean you're not going to get absolutely barbecued, which is what's happened to some parts of me. I'll survive. Had a couple of thoughts, comments, stuff I've seen recently. They got on my nerves, so I thought I'd talk about them. There's, I don't know, let's call it uncommon sense. Now, I just want to be very clear, this isn't me calling out anyone in particular. and I'll mention who you might think I'm calling out, which is untrue, but obviously will be relative to or related to the story I'm about to tell. There's some commentary on this from probably Fabled Hunters being the primary one. Posted some stuff about shill bids. Obviously eBay themselves kicked a big company off their platform. Goes without saying, multi-billion-dollar companies wouldn't do that unless they had a whole heap of proof. They cover themselves legally, so keep that in mind as I delve into my thoughts on some of this stuff. I'm going to give an analogy. I think it's the one I understand the most, and some of you might relate. If you play games, primarily in my case, shooting games, FPS, there's the whole being accused of cheating when you're just good. I'll explain how that's relevant to the point I'm making, but what happens is there's definitely people that cheat in shooting games. There's proof of it. There's people posting. There's a foil luminescence for us. So people do cheat in computer games. That's known. It's like people juicing in sports. Problem is, when there's like a broadcasted case of someone cheating at a pro level, let's say in a shooting game, you get all these much more casual, much less knowledgeable people on the mechanics of a game accusing people of cheating in their games all the time. A lot of times unprovoked, with necessarily no evidence or circumstantial evidence or anecdotal evidence. And that's the key right there, is anecdotal evidence. Give an example. So I mentioned the Fabled Hunters talk about shill bids. Obviously shill bids happen. Let me get that out of the way. It happens. Not disagreeing, not arguing. Shill bidding happens. People get their friends to bid on things. It happens in the property market, I'm sure. 100% happens in the collectible market. Seeing that it's unregulated. There's a reason in the financial industry, insider trading and things of this nature are, there's legal ramifications for participating in them. Why do I say all that? So the Fabled Hunters video comes out, talking about shill bidding. Now, I'm going to put this thing out there. It's not a dig at Saint. I haven't talked to him about it. I'm sure he could provide more proof if someone asked him. But, printed screenshots of conversations don't constitute proof. If you, again, listen to the whole story, it's very clear that PWCC were involved in shill bidding. You don't need proof. If eBay themselves have kicked them off the platform, you can sort of deduce that they have plenty of proof. And they can go off IP addresses, they can go off data you and I are never going to see. So anyway, that definitely happened. What I'm talking about is if you watch that video and then suddenly just believe that blindly, you could just go, you saw the screenshots, so you assume the screenshots are accurate, not doctored. You're assuming maybe the person showing you the screenshots even took the screenshots, didn't get them sent by a third party. It's quite convoluted. There's very little chance you know the whole story or know the truth, other than, like I said, the fact that eBay's kicked these particular people off. I think Saint was showing screenshots about other transactions, admins from other groups. There's clearly dodgy stuff going on. I'm not questioning that. Let me explain. Oh, there's a cold foil. Hooves of the Shadow Beast, common. Here's what I'm trying to say. So after the Saint story, which I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with, I'm just using it as a point. I saw some other content creators post some stuff about MetaZoo, seen a lot of posts on Reddit. Here's my point. Just messed up my pile. So I haven't used eBay in like 10 years, but I used to run a sort of successful store on there, selling vapes before vapes were cool. Do you know, what the primary reason is for people cancelling bids. And I'm going to not tell you what other people do. I'm going to tell you the primary reason why I've cancelled bids. And actually, when I say I haven't used eBay in 10 years, I just started looking again because of Flesh and Blood and trying to get access to some of the harder to get stuff in auctions. I cancelled a bid recently. Do you know why? Simply because I bid on too many things. Now, here's what I'm trying to say. The particular story I'm thinking of, I'm not going to mention who, how, it's just a point I'm trying to make. The evidence was so anecdotal. It was, hey, this person with X amount of feedback looked like they're bidding and then cancelled bids. Looked like they won auctions and then didn't pay. Just so you know, it's more likely that that person was making bids on these particular products in multiple auctions and accidentally won more than they were expecting to win. That causes two problems. One is that person then questions if the reason they're winning is that they were overpaying or overbidding. So it causes that. If you like go bid on 3 different auctions of Monarch First Edition and you win all 3, you get the winning bid. You're going to immediately assume you were the only, well, not assume, you know that you're the only one bidding on these at the price you're bidding on or what you're willing to pay. And it puts a lot of doubt in your head about whether you're even doing the right thing. Second, you simply may not be able to afford to take 3 of those items. But if you use eBay, you know that you probably should be bidding in 3 different auctions because the chances of you winning any of them is actually quite low. eBay is a big, big place. And if you've dabbled in auctions on eBay, it's, you know, you'll find the odd amazing deal, 20, 30% under the market, 50% under the market. That happens, but, you know, Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, products like this, there's a lot of people out there looking for deals, looking to enter the market at a low cost point. What I'm saying is if you've got auctions and they're getting cancelled bids and you're suddenly assuming that this is some big conspiracy, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying people aren't trying to scam you, but if someone wins your bid, then doesn't pay after 4 days, and also doesn't respond to you, and that's one of the bigger points, is if you don't have communication with them, you probably should keep your, keep your mind open as to what the reasons are that they're not. That's happened to you, and then you also hear on the grapevine that it happened to someone else on a similar product, and it maybe was the same person that was bidding on theirs. It's not always some conspiracy. That actually, to me, the first assumption I would advise you to make is that that's simply someone that won way too many auctions and then couldn't afford them. And not everyone knows eBay policies. People assume their account might get reported or banned even just for doing that. So sometimes they will just sit there quietly waiting for you to cancel so that they presumably don't get in trouble. That is likely what happens. All I'm saying is a bit of empathy. It's not always a conspiracy. It's not even always negative. You might have just had to wait 1 extra day. The guy might be a shift worker and simply hasn't had a chance to load up their PayPal, or maybe they're waiting on an auction payment to clear on their end, and that can have a bit of a delayed response if their buyer takes 4 days to pay and they win the day before that their item sells. It's just sometimes that's the case. What I'm saying is if you're not prepared to wait till the person gives you an answer why they're not paying, you really shouldn't assume that the worst case happened and someone was shillbidding or someone was artificially raising the price of MetaZoo Kickstarter edition or whatever the case may be. This is like, by the way, in my opinion, and I won't get into it because no one wants to hear me talk about that shit. This is relevant to everything these days about misinformation. Vaccines, COVID, 5G, whatever floats your boat. I think people have a very two-dimensional view on a lot of these topics and they don't consider the 50 million different variables that might be more likely than the conspiracy that they are assuming or that they heard about. Drama sells. People like to think, or people are more likely to pay attention when something like something sort of shady is happening that's interesting to talk about. In my experience, it's very unlikely to be the case all the time. It's very, very rare for this shady type of stuff to be happening. It's not as common as you think. It's not as common as people would like to make you think. In saying that, doesn't mean you should be stupid and believe the good in everyone all the time. When it comes to collectibles, money being spent, there's always bad actors. It does pay to have a calmer disposition and a little bit of patience. In my opinion, of course. It's also another thing worth talking about while I'm venting. It's this habit people have of assuming their opinion matters. There's obviously second cold foil. Still a common. Tell you what, the foiling in Monarch is a bit dark, but the cold foil's got to be some of the best. Like even these boots, just where the metal goes in the cold foil is so sick. Oh, we got 2 pairs of legs for cold foil so far. So I'll give another example. I obviously post some clickbaity stuff about the Taco King himself. Rudy, Alpha Investments, I think for most people they can relate as him being a one way or another that they heard about one product or another. It's definitely how I found out about Flesh and Blood. And I never used to play or collect or invest in Magic the Gathering or any other card game that Rudy talks about. I just always found it fascinating to hear him talk about the numbers and the economy of it all. So when something like Flesh and Blood crossed his path, and in turn someone like me, I go, well, that'd be cool to get on the ground level, and here we are. But I get a lot of people with very strong opinions about Rudy and his content. And I know he fuels that fire, and I know he more or less encourages it. But why are you subscribed? Maybe not. Definitely, why are you watching, let alone commenting? I don't even understand YouTube dislikes, to be honest. Why are you here if you dislike the content? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the difference between positive and negative feedback. That's subjective. You might, you love your partner, but you're going to have some negative feedback for them once in a while. They're not perfect. You might like Rudy's Magic the Gathering content, but absolutely despise his MetaZoo content, right? I understand that. But why on earth would you continually give bad feedback when it's sort of not your place as the consumer to... Well, first of all, you're clearly not the majority in the sense of that on a particular video, like a MetaZoo video on Rudy's channel, it clearly is being watched and liked by MetaZoo fans, right? So you jumping in and... Man, I didn't realize Monarch had so many doubles. This is even the same pitch. Maybe it's a repack. What I'm trying to say is this. You jump in, it's clearly a MetaZoo video with a MetaZoo title, with a MetaZoo thumbnail, and then you decide to leave your opinion about how shitty the art is or whatever it is that you decided to do, or people decided to do. I'm not talking to anyone specific here, obviously. Why? First of all, you got to know that's not going to change what content that person posts. because it's not really like constructive feedback. It's clearly something that the person has an audience for and is invested in, and really owns physical businesses relating to card games that clearly sell the product. So there's more than one reason why he might be posting about different games and ones that you may not like or agree with, blah blah blah. To me, it's like you coming into my house. Oh, I mean, we do want extended arts. Here we go. This one I have a few of though, but I'll take it. And another Majestic in the same pack. So what I'm saying is, you walk into my house, and let's say I even encourage you, like I say, hey, do you like my new couch? And it's this like pastel pink couch that you utterly despise. Now, your opinion, if I actually asked for it, is probably relevant. But imagine if you like proceed to then give me advice on, and again, I never asked. I just asked what you thought about my couch. But you suddenly decided to give me all this advice on rearranging all of my furniture. If you're in my house, your opinion in my house about my furniture, even if I invited your opinion on a particular piece of my furniture, in most cultures, in most circumstances, that'd be considered quite rude. You're overstepping, it just seems like unlikely that most people would do that in person, that they would, that's the wrong way. Most people wouldn't give their opinion on the whole house, layout, all the rest of my furniture. They might say something about the couch. Most people would be polite and just, avoid sitting on the couch if they hated it so much. I'm trying to say is, if you see a video, you see a piece of content about a particular topic, that includes my channel, although I have thick skin, you can say whatever you want, as I'm sure most people doing this do, but why would you leave your negative opinion if you just dislike something, instead of just avoiding it, instead of just walking away, instead of just not participating, not encouraging? Like, first of all, you got to understand, if you participate, you dislike, you comment, you watch the video, it is 100% supporting that content. It is. There we go. Legendary cold foil. So double cold foil box. Oh no, that wasn't the double. This is the first cold foil of this box. So yeah, why participate? Like, put it this way. I have a rule. If I go, I like to eat out. So I wouldn't say I'm a foodie, but I have very few vices in life. Eating out is one of them. I like to eat out. If I go to anything from a McDonald's to a 5-star restaurant and I don't like the experience, the food, I will never send a plate back. I will never make a scene, ask for a manager. Obviously, in some circumstances you might, but that's usually because you are enjoying the experience and you might just want someone to better it a little bit. Like, you might ask for some attention to get the sauce they forgot, whatever, ask where the order is. But what I'm trying to say is this: if I walk into a restaurant, it's not my house, it's not my domain, it's their domain. Even if I'm paying, that's like, I'm still a guest. I'm paying for the privilege to be in their house. If I don't like the experience, I don't even leave a review. Now, if someone spits in your face in a restaurant, maybe leave a review. But if simply you dislike it, even if you find the experience mildly rude, just don't go back. Your pocket, your wallet is what actually affects the business. You wouldn't keep going back and then keep leaving bad reviews. Because to be honest, if it was a restaurant, that just makes you a moron. But if you just keep going back and keep ordering stuff and then keep complaining about how terrible it tastes or how slow the service is or whatever, you're the moron, not them. And most of us just don't do that. Most of us don't. Keep going back somewhere we don't want to go, somewhere we dislike, somewhere we might tell our friends and family not to go. But anyway, my rule is I just don't spend money there. At the end of the day, they're a business. At the end of the day, a content creator bases their value, a lot of their economical gain, on views and comments and likes and dislikes and engagement. That's how content works. So you participating is you constantly going back, consuming, and complaining about the experience. That makes no sense to me. I just unsubscribe. Unsubscribe if someone has an opinion I strongly disagree with. And I unsubscribe if I'm simply bored of the content. What I don't do is go into someone else's domain and force my opinion on them. Again, people asking for content, reviews for suggestions, etc. is fine. But again, if you're talking about, back to a specific example, Rudy from Alpha Investments talking about MetaZoo, and every time he does, you just decide to talk about how it's a scam, pyramid scheme, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're that person, just take a step back and go, like, you are actually encouraging him to post more content. You're most certainly, if you're right, if MetaZoo is a pyramid scheme and scam, Rudy's involved in the background somehow and benefiting. He's definitely, like, if you're right, he is most certainly not going to stop because people comment about it. But you commenting about it, just as he will tell you, draws more attention to it, which is exactly what you want when you're talking about a product, is eyes on it. I think for the last, I don't want to put a number out, the 10, 20 years, it's definitely been shown that bad publicity is, or all publicity is good publicity, I should say. You actively participating in negative discussions about a topic that you have strong opinions about. And when I say topic, I'm not talking about life and death stuff. I'm talking about a card game. If that's you are 100% part of the problem. You're more than likely doing, from your side of things, more harm than good, because you're encouraging a discussion about something that you deem to be a scam or crap or undeserving of attention. My advice is just don't click on the videos. Obviously, there's a lot of these card content creators. If you're watching me, you probably watch most of them. They post about more than one game. You should just ignore the content you don't like. Leaving your opinion, strong opinion, giving a content creator unsolicited advice about what content they should or shouldn't post in a negative way. I'm not talking about positive criticism. I'm saying if your opinion is negative and it's biased because you don't like something, instead of you just ignoring, walking away, I think you're an idiot. That's my gentle way of saying what I'm trying to say. Not talking about my channel. That happens here. It's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't have an opinion. I just feel like these days everyone has an opinion. It's usually the ones with a highly negative opinion that you hear or see. The ones that repeat it, the ones that rabble on. Makes no sense to me. But they do say common sense is common. Maybe something I said made sense to you. I'm more than likely wrong. That's one thing to remember too. I think Joe Rogan has a cool, I might try and link it if I remember that I talked about it in this video, but he has a bit, it's at the very start of one of his specials from a few years back. He's talking about, I believe it's like American democracy. And he says, like, if I don't know, is it Edison or someone, if they got up from the dead and looked around, they'd be like, you know, we wanted this whole democratic thing when there was only a couple of thousand of us. Like, there's 200-300 million Americans now. Why didn't you write new things? And then Joe Rogan goes on to explain his thoughts on it. And I do find comedy to be like a good way to listen to some highly intelligent people. It's a good way to absorb. Here we go, another cold foil. I think comedy is a good way to absorb some highly intelligent opinions in like a easy to swallow way, I guess. If someone's trying to make you laugh, it's not a bad way to also hear their political opinion. But anyway, what he's trying to say in the whole thing is, you know, the average human lives for like 80 years. You know, countries, policies, laws that we've had are probably like 2 or 3 people old. Like in a whole lifespan of someone, whole generation, 2-3 generations is how old some of these rules are, some of these things that we live by, like democracy, for instance. I'm not saying I don't agree with democracy. I'm saying a lot of things we take as gospel, as law, as proven. The whole point of what he's saying is that nobody really knows everything or anything, to be honest. We only live that 80 years and we die, and we write things down, and then the next generation picks it up and maybe improves it, but your opinion is valid most of the time. You're probably not wrong all the time, but then again, the chances are you are wrong. Science is wrong all the time. People are wrong all the time. I started this by saying I'm wrong all the time. Definitely make your own mind up. But maybe don't try and force your opinion on other people, because, again, remember, you're probably wrong too. It's possible that you're wrong, if there's a chance you're wrong. About MetaZoo, about COVID, about whatever the fuck you're arguing about with people. Let it be. Sometimes it's better. Click another video. Avoid giving someone the interaction, or, you know, half these types of arguments only serve to reinforce people's beliefs. Find a fanatical religious person and try and convince them about their beliefs and see how far you get. You'll find that you definitely reinforce it. Most fanatical religious followers will have an answer for everything. They'll tell you that the persecution, the fact that you're disagreeing with them is proof that they're right, because their religion tells them that they will be persecuted and people will say they're wrong. It's just a loop. Last pack. Anyway, also just be nice to people. It's usually better for your mental health and most certainly theirs. What do we think of this case? I don't know what the Valiant Dynamo is worth, but I don't know if it covers remotely the cost of a Monarch first edition case these days, but glad we pulled something like that. 4 cold foils in 4 boxes, a few Majestics, 6 cold foil Majestics out of 4 boxes, and the 1 extended art. I'll put pricing in as usual. Hey, thanks for listening to me ramble on. I'll see you in the next one.